Hey there, everyone. Thanks for tuning into this brand new podcast series where we're diving into the world of BIO110. If you're a student or even just someone curious, this is the place to be. And lucky for us, we've got Dr. Rosario, the professor behind this incredibly popular course, joining me today. Dr. Rosario, how are you feeling about the start of the semester?
Oh, I am excited. There's something special about the energy of the first week. I mean, yeah, it's a bit chaotic, everyone trying to figure out schedules, tools like Top Hat and D2L, but it's also the perfect chance to set the tone and get everyone ready for success. I love it.
Chaotic is a good word. Okay, let's break this down for the students listening. BIO110 has this dual lecture lab setup. How does that work? And why is the integration between them so crucial?
That's such a good starting point. So, the lecture part of Bio 110 is where we dive into the big ideas, concepts like the flow of energy in ecosystems or the basics of genetics. Then the lab portion, that's all about rolling up your sleeves, applying some of those ideas, and really getting your hands dirty. But here's the key, both parts are inseparable. You can't pass the course unless you're enrolled in both. That means if you thrive in one and struggle in the other, they balance out. You're always building skills for both.
Gotta love that balance. Now, I heard you mention digital tools like Top Hat and D2L, which kind of sound, well, overwhelming. What's the best way for students to get comfortable with all of that?
Yeah, I get that. It can feel like you're getting thrown into the deep end, right? My advice? Start with D2L. It's like your home base. You'll find all your deadlines, announcements, even your study materials there. Top Hat, on the other hand, is super interactive. You're using it in class to follow along, answer quizzes, and even earn attendance points. Combine the two, and you've got this cohesive system that keeps everything in sync.
That makes a lot of sense. And deadlines, let's not forget those deadlines. Speaking of, I saw that you pushed the mastering assignment's due date back to Monday at midnight. Why was that important?
Honestly, I just hate to see students stress out over technical issues, especially during week one. If you didn't get your e-text or mastering link set up in time, no worries, I got your back. That extra time means no excuses for not figuring out how to use these tools by Monday night, though, okay?
You're cutting them a little slack, but only a little. Now, let me just say, adjusting to these digital tools reminds me of my early days working with podcast platforms. The sheer amount of stuff you have to learn can feel like trying to drink from a fire hose. But once you've got the basics, it makes everything so much smoother. It's really about giving it time.
Exactly. Getting the basics locked in builds confidence, and then everything else just clicks into place. I mean, it's the same way in bio. Once students figure out how to navigate the tools, they're unstoppable.
Love that. One of the things that really stuck with me is you telling students to take advantage of the calendar on D2L. Why is it such a game changer for staying organized?
Well, every exam date, every lab assignment, even mastering quizzes, it's all right there. I know some of you probably think, ugh, a calendar? Really? But believe me, knowing what's coming up and getting reminders through email or text, that's what separates the students who manage their time well from the ones scrambling last minute. Just set up the notifications already.
All right, folks. You heard that. Notifications are your new best friend. And I think that's a perfect place for us to pause on this. But don't go anywhere, because up next, we'll break down some killer strategies for studying smarter and staying on top of your game. Okay, so we've been diving into some great tips with Dr. Mike Rosario about navigating Bio 110, from mastering digital tools to staying organized. But now let's shift gears a bit. Dr. Rosario, when it comes to really understanding those core concepts, what's the key to making them stick? What's your approach?
Oh, I love that. Secret sauce. Honestly, it's the study cycle. It's this whole system designed to help students do more than just memorize. You preview before class, attend the lecture, review after class, study actively, and then check your understanding. Those steps, if done right, are game changers.
Wait, isn't that what most students think they're already doing? Like, listen to lecture, read the notes, repeat, right? I mean, that was basically me in college.
That's the thing though. It's not about just passively soaking in the material. Say you're previewing before class, you're skimming lecture notes or the textbook headings, sure, but you're also jotting down questions, figuring out what you're going to listen for in class. and post-class review, that's your golden window to start making connections while the lecture's still fresh. But to your point, most students miss that window entirely because they think just taking notes was enough.
Guilty as charged.
And don't even get me started on studying. Let me ask you this, Eric. Back in your college days, were you a crammer?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I remember this one time I tried to memorize an entire semester's worth of bio terms in one night. It was traumatic.
Classic. That's what we call mass practice, and it's just not efficient. Instead, you should space out your study sessions over several days leading up to an exam. It's called distributed practice. It actually helps move info from short-term to long-term memory. So those late-night fire hose tactics, that's why they never stick.
Right, and all I got to show for it was a sleep deprivation headache. Okay, so spacing out studying works. What else? Any pro tips for making studying feel, less boring?
Oh, tons. First, get active with your learning. Create visual aids like concept maps and diagrams. Or, my personal favorite, teach the material out loud. Like, say it as if you're explaining it to a friend, or better yet, to a rubber duck. No joke. That's a legit method. Speaking forces you to process the material deeply enough to explain it.
Wait, so I could ace bio with the help of a rubber duck? That's amazing.
Laugh all you want, but it works. Another tip, don't just read and highlight. Rewrite your notes in your own words. Draw connections between ideas. Even make them funny if that helps you. The point is to own your learning process, not just passively absorb.
I like that. Active learning really makes you engage instead of, snoozing over a textbook. But what about distractions? Phones, notifications, all that jazz.
Oh, distractions are enemy number one. If you're serious about studying, you need to disable notifications, turn your phone off, or use apps that lock you out of distracting sites. And another thing, switch up your study spots. What works one day might not work the next, so keep your environment fresh and focused.
Got it. One last thing before we move on. Any strategies for folks juggling all their classes and feeling swamped?
Oh, absolutely. Take control of your calendar. At the start of each week, schedule out when you're covering what. Even 15-minute review blocks add up. And don't just wait for tests to study. Train yourself to treat easy weeks like chances to get ahead. It saves you so much stress down the line.
Love it. So ditch cramming, get active, embrace the rubber duck. Got it. Thanks. These are seriously gold. Stick around, folks, because next up, we're diving into an overview of some of BIO110's major themes. You won't want to miss it. All right, everyone, rubber ducks down for now. As promised, it's time to zoom out and look at the big picture of BIO110. Dr. Rosario, you always say biology tackles life's big questions, right? So where do we even start unpacking something that vast?
Oh man, where do we start with life? So much of it boils down to understanding how all living things are connected, and yet so profoundly different. That's why in BIO110, we're always circling around these three key themes: genetics, ecosystem interactions, and evolution, my favorite of the three.
Three big ideas to rule them all, huh? Okay, let's unpack one of those. Evolution. You've mentioned in your lectures that it's the glue that holds biology together. Can you explain a bit more for those who may not be as sold on that?
Absolutely. Evolution really is the uniting framework. Nothing makes sense in biology without it. It's how we see connections between wildly different things. I mean, think about this. We all share this genetic language of DNA. Whether we're talking about humans, bacteria, or even those funky mushrooms you put on pizza, it's all built on the same molecular playbook passed down through billions of years. Wild, right?
That really is mind-blowing when you think about it. And I love how you use examples like birds and bats to drive this point home. Homology and analogy. Those were the terms, right? How do those fit into this puzzle?
Nailed it. So let's break those down. Homology is all about shared ancestry, structures inherited from a common ancestor. Like if you look at the bones in your arm and compare them to a cat's leg or even a whale's flipper, it's the same pattern. One long bone, two smaller ones, wrist bones, and fingers or equivalents. That's homology. It shows we're all on the same evolutionary tree, even if the branches go in different directions.
Got it. And analogy? That's more like a coincidence of function, right?
Exactly. Analogy is when two structures look similar or serve the same purpose but evolved independently. The classic case: bird wings versus bat wings. Both are used for flying, sure, but if you trace back far enough, their common ancestor didn't have wings. Their flying ability evolved separately. That's analogy. Cool, right?
Super cool. And these concepts of homology and analogy, they're what help scientists piece together the bigger story, aren't they?
Exactly. They're like clues, helping us reconstruct how life evolved and diverged over time. And this ties back to our other big talking point: emergent properties. I love this idea because it shows how individual pieces come together to create something entirely new and meaningful. Take life itself. It's made up of non-living pieces like molecules, but when arranged in the right way, bam, you've got something alive. That's biology at its core, understanding not just the parts, but how they interact to create something greater.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a profound way to look at life. Okay, before we wrap things up, what's your ultimate takeaway for students diving into these big themes in Bio 110?
My takeaway? Keep asking questions, big, little, weird questions. Biology is a science of discovery, and part of that is embracing the complexity. Don't get bogged down with trying to memorize every single term. Focus on understanding the big connections, how everything fits together. If you can do that, the details will start to click along the way.
That's such a powerful note to end on. Thanks so much, Mike, for giving us your time and energy today. I feel like I could ace Bio 110 after this.
Anytime, and for all of you listening, stick with it. You've got this, and I'm here cheering you on every step of the way.
You heard the man. Keep going and keep questioning. That's it for today's episode of Success in Bio 110. Join us next time for more tips, insights, and a little dash of inspiration. And until then, take care, folks.